When I was 15, my dad died, and my mom, who was 45, didn't wait too long to start over and moved her new partner in just 2 months later. My dad left everything to me and not even a dime to her. They were not married. My dad's will was so structured that she couldn't challenge it, and she attempted and even asked me to pass over one of my properties to her to show my new dad that he was welcomed. I couldn't even if I wanted to, because my dad's will specified that I must be 21 to access everything he left me. This dude had kids, an 18-year-old male and a 19-year-old female. My mom prioritized them to keep them happy. I mean, she wasn't like a bad parent or neglectful, but she tended to favor them. They went on trips, and even if she didn't tell me not to go, she'd say something between the lines of, "Wouldn't you like to go to your grandparents?" My dad's are better. I mean, I'm not stupid, and I know she didn't want me there. When I turned 17, she asked me to leave my own house because I kept fighting with her dude. And I also reminded him of whose house it was when he wanted to play the man of the house. I also called him Johnny Conroy. My grandparents told me to avoid confrontation, so I went to live with them. My mom would visit me often and tell me how much she loved me, but she needed to keep peace at home. After college, I decided to check my properties and the one where my mom lives. I wanted to renovate it to rent it since it's a good one and can help me afford my master's. I went there to inform my mom, but no one was there. Later, I found out they went on vacation, so I called her, but she didn't answer. So I proceeded to change the locks, mainly to take possession officially. They arrived yesterday and couldn't get in. Of course, they called me, but I wasn't in the town. I went today because some renovation work will start in a few weeks. I was in the backyard and my mom came in furious, yelling at me, saying how dare I do that. So we talked and I let them know they had 2 weeks to leave. Her husband, an self-employed, was furious. My mom and her stepdaughter started crying because the girl was pregnant. I'm sorry, but I made up my mind. My mom's family is shaming me, but I'd like to know if you think I'm the idiot. Edit. I own the house, and I'm the one who's been paying the property taxes every year. My mom called me today saying we could talk. It's not the idiot because you were kicked out of your own house and made a secondary priority as a child. As an adult, you're now doing what you couldn't do then. Make sure you're doing everything legally so they can't make things harder on you. I'm wondering if your father knew something and that's why you got everything. Pregnant she, and all of them, to be honest, isn't your responsibility. You were charitable enough to let them stay until you were 23. When you turned 21, you could have easily kicked them out 2 years earlier. So they need to take responsibility and be thankful that you were graceful for this long already and not attack you over it. Be wary of them destroying the house in revenge. I just thought I'd throw that out there. He tried by calling once and showing up at their door while they weren't there. That isn't much, far from an official letter with receipt proof or anything. It doesn't even seem like he left a voicemail when he called. And usually you change the locks after the tenant is gone, not while they still live there and have not been evicted yet. So you are the idiot. The mother and stepfather likely have squatters' rights and tenants' rights that dictate whether or not you're allowed to change the locks or renovate, how much warning you're obligated to give them, and what constitutes reasonable steps to have notified them. This isn't my house, my rules. It's what a landlord can legally do when their property is under tenancy, and that's well beyond what we can talk about here. Agree, major red flags that she's treated you like rubbish over the years. But when she needs a place to stay, she's happy to leech off you. She's a place to stay. She's happy to leech off you. She's an adult, she made her bed, so she shall lie in it. You are not responsible for her or her husband, and I'm sure they're fully capable of working. Sorry for the pregnant lady, but at the end of the day, these are your assets and home. Oh, no contact if you can, and tell her where to go. You're not her bank or provider, but was her job. And she failed miserably when she basically excluded you in favor of her new family. So, okay, she was happy with them. Well, she can stay with them and they can all be happy together in their homelessness. Let me preface this by saying that I, male 30, lost my wife, 33, to cancer a few months ago. She was too weak for chemo and chose not to complete her treatment because of how difficult it was for her. Everyone thought she was making a mistake, but I supported her decision, and it allowed us to spend some time together before she eventually passed away. My family knows how I feel about it and vice versa. That's why they rarely bring my wife up in conversations, but they disagreed with her decision to stop treatment. My brother's 34 wedding took place last week, the first major event without my wife, and I hesitated a lot but decided to come and show support and share his joy with his bride and the family. We were having a good time, and I admit that I felt a lot lighter and enjoyed my time till my brother decided to give a speech. He talked about the family being present and how happy he was to have everyone he loved there. Then suddenly he brought up my wife. I shook my head, signaling for him to drop it, but he went on and said, "It's really sad that my wife's name isn't here with us today. But it was her choice not to be here with us today." I was floored, completely dumbfounded and shocked. Mom looked at me with wide open eyes, and I instantly replied by yelling, telling him that he was an idiot and that he should have never mentioned my wife or even said her name there and there. After that, the family tried to calm me down as my brother started arguing with me, saying that I was out of line for insulting him when he was just trying to make a tribute or whatever for my deceased wife. He said, "Your deceased wife." I argued back and then decided to leave. My parents tried to get me to stay and not further embarrass them, but I left eventually. They called me later and were fuming, demanding that we talk about how I flew off the handle and made a scene, and called my brother names at his wedding for honoring my wife. These imparts to cracked tea. I refused to respond to them, but Mom has been pressuring me to visit and apologize to my brother for this misunderstanding if I wanted to keep having a good relationship with him. Am I the idiot? It's as soon as I read, but it was her choice not to be here with us today. I couldn't believe my eyes. Oh my God, you flew off the handle for a good reason. Who wouldn't? Why would he say that? Tribute? That's not a tribute. That's him throwing his awful opinion in front of everyone, hoping you wouldn't say anything just because there are eyes everywhere. Not the idiot whatsoever. If he was planning on mentioning your wife in any context, he should have discussed it sensitively with you beforehand and said no more than you agreed to. He should never have blindsided you at an event and should not have editorialized about her passing. The day they understand your reaction is the day they will wish they did not understand it. There was no need for him to say those things. He could feel how he wanted to feel, but he had no requirement to do it. He did it because he wanted to. He wanted to get in front of the family and say, I disagree with the deceased woman. He did it because he wanted everyone to know. Screw him. My heart aches for you. What a colossally insensitive thing to say. And so very soon after your loss. I think you should take whatever time you need to process your grief for your wife and the hurt your brother caused. If that means you don't speak for 6 months, then that's what that means. Your brother especially, and the rest of your family owe you a massive, sincere apology. They may have all sorts of opinions about your wife's decision, but none of them were in her shoes or yours. They could have the decency to just stay out of it, but they didn't. Hope you've got some lovely friends who've got your back through this. I'm so sorry your family's such a collective of tactless idiots. Some background. I have 4 kids. I eldest. At John 27 male was with my first wife, who died when he was 5. I eventually remarried and got 2 stepdaughters. Lisa, 25, and Anne, 18. Then my second wife and I had Mike, a young male teen. My wife and I made sure to give them comfortable lives. When John and Lisa graduated from university, we gifted them condo units. We will do the same when Anne and Mike graduate. Actually, all have trust funds that will be released when they turn 30. I'm pretty proud of my kids. John and Lisa graduated from top universities. John has a high-paying job as an engineer, while Lisa pursued a master's degree in business while working in marketing. Eventually, she started her marketing consulting firm while being a part owner of a spa. Anna recently got engaged to his girlfriend of 2 years, and they want to get married by the end of this year. She seems nice. However, she doesn't earn as much as him. My son spends a lot of money on her, on dates and on expensive gifts. I understand it's his money and he can spend it however he wants. She also moved in with him in the condo that I gave him. As far as I know, she doesn't pay her share of utilities and association fees. And now John is asking to get a part of his trust fund to use for the wedding since his fiancée doesn't have much money to contribute to their wedding. Now here's where I might be the idiot. Oh, princesses, I told him I'd release part of his trust fund early if he drew up a prenup with her. He got angry and told me I was unfair because I released half of Lisa's trust fund last year to help put up her business. He told me that I was playing favorites. I told him that Lisa did something worthwhile with her trust fund. And while a wedding is worthwhile, I told him it doesn't seem safe to use his fund for a wedding to a girl who doesn't bring much to the table. I told him I just wanted him to have some security by drawing up a prenup. He got angrier and said I was implying that his fiancée is a gold digger. Of course, my wife and the rest of the family refused to take sides. Am I the idiot? You are the idiot. So he's done everything you've expected, and you're really going to try to force him into a prenuptial. I understand your position, but if he loses the money, that's on him. So just make it clear that you won't bail him out. You are the idiot. I grew up relatively poor. My husband comes from a very wealthy family. Everyone called me a gold digger. We're happily married, and now I make more money than him, only by a few thousand. Am I still a gold digger, or is my husband the gold digger now? Plenty of people are gold diggers, but making less money or money you're coming from less does not automatically make you a gold digger. Having a prenup isn't a bad idea, but the way you talk about everything in this, it is obvious that you only care about money. You're the only one who cares. We have no clue what anyone else thinks or how they are because you only talk about money. Not the idiot. Why would premarital assets be shared once you're married? You're a team. Of course, any financial success your son may have after marriage would almost certainly be achieved in large part thanks to his wife's support. But gifts given from loved ones, why would that be a joint asset? Update, the next day. I had a long conversation with my son. First, I apologized to him for making that comment about his fiancée. I realized it was demeaning and uncalled for. Second, I asked about their living arrangement. He did admit to paying for everything, including bills and food. He even pays for someone to clean because neither of them would. I asked if she ever offered to pay, and he said no. I told him I have nothing against their arrangement and spoiling her, but he has to be wiser about his spending habits. I explained the importance of a prenup and said I had one with his mom and stepmom. He still refuses to, because according to him, it might offend her. Again, raising some flags. So I will stick with my decision and release his trust fund when he's 30, as we initially agreed. He wasn't happy with this. Lastly, I asked what kind of wedding they planned to have that they felt the need to use his trust fund. She dreams of having a big wedding on the beach. She also wants a photo and video production to announce their engagement, which I find ridiculous. Firstly, they want it this year, but can't afford it as she's only paying for her wedding dress. And my son admitted that he doesn't have a lot of savings, probably from going on expensive dates and trips. So I told him it's not practical, but if they really want it, they should wait and save up for it. At that point, I felt better about my decision not to release his trust fund early. It's the court the way I see it. My son could go broke in a few years, paying for everything and spoiling his fiancée wife. Their trust fund is the last thing all my kids will get from me. That being said, I may be an idiot, but not a total idiot to not support his wedding. My wife and I agreed to give them a certain amount that should cover a lovely venue and still have some leftover amount left for other expenses. It'll be our wedding gift to them. And if he's still not happy, then there's nothing more I can do. If they go no contact or low contact, I'd still feel at peace with my decision. I provided for him, and I tried to protect him. If she leaves him and he ends up losing everything, I'd hate for that to happen, but that's on him. But I do hope their marriage works out. Thanks for the update. The real question should be, how can he and his fiancée not have money for a wedding? For a wedding when they have a paid-for condo, he has a high-paying job, and she works too. How much is this wedding they're planning? Looks like Justin Timberlake and Jessica Biel style. I mean, I had a decent-paying job and a house payment and saved a nice chunk of change for a decent-sized wedding with some planning and budgeting. I think they need financial literacy more than a prenup. Am I the only one concerned that if what Ope says is true about his son's fiancée not paying for utilities, etc., is in fact concerning? I always pay my fair share because I'm an independent adult, and marriage doesn't change that. Also, why such an extravagant wedding if she can't afford it? If your son screws this up and you bail him out, you will not be doing him any favors. Whatever the outcome, he needs to be on his own. Hopefully, that means he'll be happily married, but I'm not sure that'll be the case. My 34-year-old sister gave birth 2 months ago. She brought the baby to my wife and my 23-year-old wedding. She breastfeeds whenever she goes. We visit her house and she breastfeeds in front of us. Visiting our parents, she breastfeeds. Take going out in a public setting, she'll sit on a bench in the park and breastfeed. And go out to a restaurant, she breastfeeds. Everywhere. I've never spoken about it because I know she'll get mad and offended. But when she did that at my wedding, I lost my cool. During the reception dinner, she just did it again. So I kindly approached her and asked her why she didn't bring formula or at least pump milk out and put it in a bottle so she wouldn't have to do all this at that moment. She said, "Because I don't have to. I feel comfortable breastfeeding. Getting milk out on my own is more painful." I said she could make this sacrifice and compromise for one day instead of doing this in front of 250 guests at my wedding. She then said she couldn't do much about it now because the baby had to have her milk. I told her she should be more thoughtful of that instead of thoroughly embarrassing herself and us. I told my wife the deal. And riposted, and she said I'm idiot and should immediately apologize to my sister. Unfortunately, my parents also sided with my sister, and now pretty much everyone thinks I'm an idiot since I'm the only person who had a problem with it. I decided to call her out because I considered it bad etiquette and tacky to do that at a formal event, and that she could find another solution for that night. Am I the idiot? You are the idiot. I'm assuming you fed your guests. That includes your nephew. Did you ask all the other guests at the wedding not to eat too? Your sister deserves a hug and a thank you for making an effort to attend a wedding with an infant. He should have made everyone just eat the same way. Okay, everyone, we've provided a thin blanket for every guest to place over their plate and head so you can privately enjoy your meal. The other option is to go eat in the bathroom. Happy mealtime! You are 34 and your wife is 23. Imagine marrying a woman 11 years younger, who's still more mature than you. Madness. God, what is it with all the guys who marry women younger than them? They all seem to be immature and controlling in the same way.